take a look now at the world of the street centre. Going about your business in city centre, town centre, you'll see people with stalls and barrows selling you stuff. You can occasionally pick up quite a bargain on those. They are street sellers licensed by the local authority. Occasionally you might see somebody who's kind of wandering about selling stuff. They might well be a peddler. And Nottingham City Council has been involved in trying to get some legislation through that would effectively see peddlers not able to peddle their wares in the city centre. What about that then? Nic McGerr runs a website offering information to peddlers, and he's also a peddler himself. Nic, hello. Just explain, as you say, the difference between a peddler and a street trader.
You're asking me that question?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, quite simply. A street trader, in the meaning of the law, is somebody who is licensed by a local authority to have a street trading pitch in a local authority jurisdiction, usually in a street that's designated a consent street or otherwise. And a peddler is not restricted by the local authority in that sense, because the peddler is exempt under the Local Authority Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act, which gives exemption to peddlers with a certificate. And the peddler is able to travel anywhere throughout the United Kingdom displaying wares or other. I say or other because that's actually in the Act. So, a peddler is very descriptive of a peddler, and it also says or other. In other words, a peddler can almost just be anyone doing just about anything that's within the law.
Okay. Can a peddler have a barrow or a stall?
Well, it's quite interesting actually, because unfortunately in about 1962, I can't remember the dates precisely, but the Hawkers Act was rescinded, which is what they want to do with the Pedlars Act. Currently, they want to repeal the Pedlars Act, and when they rescinded the Hawkers Act, then that sort of left a large gap in local legislation, and the Pedlars Act itself does actually state that a hawker is a peddler, amongst other things. And so a lot of hawkers actually decided to take up a peddler certificate, and they carried on regardless with their barrows, etc., etc. I mean, that's really why a lot of town and city centres do have hawkers with trolleys and barrows and all the rest of it, because they're just working with a peddler certificate, and that's the law. They're allowed to do that.
So Nottingham City Council introduced a bill to Parliament to, in their opinion, better regulate street trading. They told us in a statement. It looks like they want to not have the exemption for peddlers and be able to license all people who want to sell on the street. What do you make of that?
Well, I think you've said that pretty well precisely. In fact, Nottingham City Council have introduced a bill which is still making its way through Parliament. In fact, it was being debated last night in the House of Commons. The amendments that the Lords had put on the bill were being debated. I'm not too sure how that's gone. I mean, I think in fact it's probably ended up a slight disaster, because the Lords made some quite good amendments.
Well, one of the things they said is that a peddler can't have any apparatus larger than a pedestrian. So that rather rules out the barrow in future, doesn't it?
Well, in terms of what the Lords were saying, that in their paper 242, the Lords were saying that essentially to totally restrict peddler activity in any town or city centre, which is how they actually understood what was being proposed by the proponents at the time of the Nottingham Bill, was unjustified, and that a better regulation was needed, and that's why they introduced these various sizes of trolley and all the rest of it.
Do you feel that peddlers are being driven out of places? Because I think there's Nottingham and a couple of other city centres that are trying to change the regulations. Do you feel slightly under threat?
Well, it's not just me. I mean, in fact, Lady Knight of Coventry, who was the chair of the Lords Committee, actually...
She's not a peddler, is she?
No, but sympathetic. She actually said that, from the committee's point of view, that the councils involved, that's Nottingham, Leeds, Canterbury, and the Borough of Reading, were all intent on driving peddlers out of their jurisdictions, whereas in fact the Lords decided that was not justiciable and not fair. Yes, I mean, I think a lot of local authorities do wish to rid their city centre, town centres and boroughs of peddlers trading on the streets, and yes, as a peddler, I think I agree with the Lords. I think it's not only just unjusticiable, I think it's unfair, and also, strangely, it's also against the European Convention, which is one of the elements that the government is trying to introduce to actually outlaw peddlers completely and do away with the Pedlars Act. They're using a European convention called the Services Directive, saying that the Pedlars Act is incompatible or non-compliant, whereas in fact it is thoroughly compliant. The European Services Directive is all about free trade.
Okay. Have you ever peddled in Nottingham?
I have, as a matter of fact. Yes.
What wares did you peddle?
Well, a variety, and that's that's the joy of being a peddler. It all depends. If it's raining, there's no point in selling sunglasses. You sell an umbrella, and vice versa. If it's nice and sunny, then it's sunglasses, and it's all to do with adapting to circumstance. And I think that's the joy of being a peddler, and I think that's where the buzzword is SME, small medium enterprises, is where it's at as far as people who are looking to become self-sufficient and self-employed and sustainable and all those very green things. I mean, that's exactly what and it's healthy. You're on your feet most of the day and looking for customers, and it keeps you occupied. And
well, Nic, it's fantastic to talk with you. Thanks for sharing your experiences with us and explaining a bit more. It is a slightly arcane world, I think, the differences between street traders and hawkers and peddlers, but you've given us great insight. And Nottingham City Council, as I say, introduced a bill to Parliament in 2008, to allow them to better regulate street trading after some exemptions there are in place for peddlers. They want to be able to seize goods and serve fixed penalty notices when people are in breach. They hope it will help to raise the quality of the streets and the shopping offer in Nottingham. They now need to study the implications of the amendments that were made in the Lords and wait for the bill to receive royal assent before it can come into effect.